It is not easy. There's so much work that is involved. I've been doing YouTube for about a month now, and even though it's not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things, I've learned so much from this experience alone. And in this video, I wanted to share with you my experience, what I went through, the emotions that I faced, and ultimately I hope that this video will help you as well. Number one, it is not easy. There's so much work that is involved. We consume a lot of content these days. The reality is, we take it for granted because your mind has this imagination of how you want to film certain things and how you want it to come out. But when you actually do it, you quickly realize how much work there is involved. There's the scripting, the filming, the refilming because your first 10 takes wasn't good enough, the editing, pre-production, post-production, the audio. Oh my goodness, there's so much work involved. It is not easy. That's probably the biggest takeaway that I realized is that when you actually try to do something like this, it's going to take time and effort. But that's okay because all good things take time to build. Number two, your feelings are valid. Let me say that again. Your feelings are 100% valid. When you first do this, you're going to have this imposter syndrome. You're going to question yourself every minute, every day, every second. You're going to ask yourself, what am I even doing? Who are you? And you're going to feel so fake in front of the camera because talking to a camera is so uncomfortable. And honestly, I don't know how some of these people do it, and because they are naturals at it. However, the reality is probably that they weren't natural. They weren't good at it in the beginning, and they had to go through this emotional phase before they become good. Just like playing an instrument. You're not, unless you're a prodigy, but even prodigy starts off, decent. They have to work towards the craft. They have to put time and energy into it day after day after day in order to get better. So your feelings are valid. Have you heard of the change curve? The change curve is essentially an emotional roller coaster throughout the length of time. So, for example, when you move to a new city, you will first experience excitement. Your excitement starts to rise. But when you actually move to a new city, you're going to hit a lot of challenges. You're going to realize, you left all your friends at home, your families are at home. You then go into this sadness phase. And then eventually you question yourself. What am I doing here? Why did I make this decision? This is the worst decision ever. And eventually you come to acceptance. And once you hit acceptance, which is about the 4-month mark, you'll then start to rise back up into the happiness phase where you found a routine, you found a group of friends, and you're really starting to like your experience. That change curve will be very similar. That change curve will be very similar when you go onto this YouTube journey of yours. And yeah, you have to put in the time. You have to practice your voice, practice everything, and improve that instrument. There's a video of, I forgot his name, but he does a really good job of explaining to you why you're not being fake. You're just very unfamiliar with this. But as long as you continue, as long as you practice, you will become better. So keep that in mind.
Does it feel like you're playing a character? Is that how you feel when you talk to people?
Yes, I'm always fake. Kidding. I'm not. The reality is, I've got a question for you. Do you play the saxophone?
No.
Good. So if I gave you a saxophone and got you to play it right now, how will it sound? If you see a saxophone player play the saxophone and they're not that great at it, do you go, what a fake ass saxophone player? You don't. You go, that person's learning how to use their instrument. So what you're all doing is you're just learning how to play with your voice in ways you've never learned how to do before. So it does feel like you're acting a little bit. But then as you start to learn how to do it properly, it starts to sound smooth and then it becomes a part of you. The behaviors that you currently exhibit when you communicate, you've been practicing them for the last 20, 30 years, right? These new behaviors that you've learned, you've practiced them for one day. So these new behaviors, when you just try them, they feel fake. It's not fake. It's just unfamiliar. It's not acting, is you becoming the future version of you.
Number 3, be very prepared for a very steep learning curve. There's so much to do, especially if you were to do this alone. You have to learn how to talk to a camera. You have to learn how to edit. And when it comes to the editing programs, they have a lot of features. So you'll be Googling a lot, YouTubing a lot. You know, I even thought about, because I've YouTubed so many Adobe Premiere tricks and tips and how-tos, I feel like I could do a whole series for that. So let me know if you want to see some of that. Like all skills, it takes time to develop. So just be patient, put in the time, be consistent as much as possible with everything you have going on, and give it at least a year, you know? Number 4 is very interesting because this recently occurred. I mean, I've thought about this a lot, but my mother, who also has a YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And she started filming, well, let's back it up a little bit more. I taught her how to use a computer, and that was a really, really, really challenging journey. We fought a lot because it's not about her inability to learn, but really the language barrier between, you know, me being raised in America speaking English and her speaking Cantonese. Most of the time I was frustrated because I couldn't translate what I wanted to say. And I didn't want to teach her, you know, click here, click there, because technology changes, the location of certain things change. So I wanted to teach her how to be self-sufficient by rewiring her brain to think differently. And you can see that now she's able to use a computer, she's able to make videos, edit videos, and every time we travel, I often ask her, I've asked her before, why do you take so many photos? And her answer was simply, when she was growing up, they didn't have this technology like we did. Because of that, in a way, she's making up for lost time. So personally, I was injured about 3.5 years ago. I pretty much can't play sports at a competitive level anymore because I don't have cartilage on my right ankle. And I have sciatica going through up my back for the last 3.5 years, which affects everything in my life. But one of the things I realized was that when I was growing up, I played a lot of sports, hours, years of competing. And I don't have footage to go back to see how I performed, especially when I was in my prime, which really was late 20s, early 30s. And it's very sad, it really is. So in a way, number 4 is more along the lines of, we just don't film ourselves enough. And it's really sad because we have nothing to go back to. Do you remember the old days when you would watch your parents' VHS, you know, for those who know what a VHS is, and you'll see this sort of like 80s, 90s grainy feeling. Do you remember the times when they have the big bulky camcorders? Man, those were the good old days. And I feel like number 4 really is, you know, I hope it inspires you to film yourself more, even if no one's watching. Because for number 5, the reality is nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares. So do what you always wanted to do, because life is short. Inspiration is perishable. So when you feel inspired to do something, act on it. Because once that time passes, you forget about it, you won't act on it. The next thing you know, 5 years passes. So I want to add another one, actually, now that I've kind of talked through these lessons. And number 6 is, do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. Do it for self-improvement. Do it for the fun of it. Do it because you enjoy doing it. And while you're doing it, you'll learn a new skill, whether it's acting, whether it's talking to a camera, whether it's editing. Somewhere along the lines, you'll find something that you like. But as we all know, we don't know if we are good at it or if we like it unless we do it. And think back during a time when you were a kid and your parents brought you out to try basketball, try soccer, try painting, try an instrument. We have to try a little bit of everything in order for us to know whether or not we even like it. So I hope this video gives you some value, and I hope this helps you go towards the things that you want to do, because at the end of the day, life is short. Yeah.